All right, ladies and gentlemen and engineers, we're going to draw a 3D hub in Autodesk Inventor. Okay, what that's going to look like is something like this. Waiting patiently for Inventor to open. Okay, so it's going to look something like this, where you have a hole that your axle or bearing is going to go through. You have, this is just kind of a spacer. This is the part that goes inside the CD or the wheel. And this is the part right here that, if you can see my mouse, that gets glued to it. Okay, so we are going to go through the spiel here. I can grab this and move it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. All right, so if you already took these notes, don't take them, but if you never took these notes, take them. All right, so IPT, that's what we're going to use, an Inventor part. It's a 3D part. Okay, so do we need to use a template? No, when we're doing something for the 3D printer, we don't need to use the part. We just need to open up a new IPT. So when you're here, so I already have mine done, but if you need to open one, so you're going to say, you can click on here and say you want a new, and you can choose that, hey, I want a new part, an IPT. And then make sure once you do that, you save it in your folder with your name on it, in a folder called APE, in a folder called Advanced Mousetrap Card. Okay, and say give it a good name, such as Mousetrap Hub or something. Okay, so let me, actually I probably should make a new one real quick. And when you do make a new one, make sure that you can choose metric if you want centimeters, or English if you want inches. We're supposed to use metric because that is the scientific way. All right, once you get your new IPT file over, you're going to create a 2D sketch. You're going to click on this, and you're going to create a 2D sketch, and you have to tell it where to start drawing. So just choose the plane you want to draw on. Doesn't really matter. And the first thing you're going to want to do is draw your circle. Now, the first circle is your biggest circle. This is going to be the part that's glued. Okay, so you have to figure out. So get your measurement out. So I decided that I wanted to make mine, I don't know, I'm going to say I'm going to make mine, I think 1.25 inches would be good, or whatever you're going to do in meters. Okay, so that's a good start. Okay, but before we continue on, let's make sure we go through my spiel. If you want to change it to millimeters after the fact, you can do this. If you want to see the grid lines, you can do this. Okay. Now, we know this. We have to make sure we measure for our axle and our bearing, right? So let's just assume that the axle is going through the hub. We need to measure that. Okay. And then we also need to measure the inside of our wheel, where it's going to slide through. And then we need to measure the thickness so that we know how to do all these parts. Okay. All right. So with that in mind, here's some notes that we're going to come back to in a minute. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to draw this. Okay. So I'm going to draw that, and I'm going to finish the sketch. And then I'm going to extrude it, okay? And it doesn't really matter how much I extrude it, but, well, it does a little bit, because I don't want it to be ginormous. So I can say I want to extrude this, whatever looks good. Let's say 0.05, 0.05, and looks good. We don't want it to be too thick because it'll be heavy. We don't want it to be too thin. Now, we're going to draw on this surface. So I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to make a new sketch. I'm going to draw right on top of that surface. Now, the next one is important because we need to be the exact size. No, not the exact size. We need it to be the correct size of the CD or wheel. Okay, so now look, when making a hole for the, oh no, we're not there. When making a part that is going inside, so we're going to make the part that's going inside there. So we need to subtract 0.01 inches or 0.25 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure my CD. So, and when I measured the CD, I found out, okay, I got to get back to my sketch here. Oh no, I'm working on the sketch. What's going on here? So we're going to click on that. Oh, I need to dimension it. Okay, so I got to figure out the dimension of this thing. It was 0.28. So I'm going to click on that, and I measured my CD inside, and it was 0.59 inches. But I need to subtract the 0.01 that I said to subtract, because we don't want it to be too tight. Okay, so subtracting that makes it 0.80. So it's going to be a little bit less so that it'll actually fit through. If you want it to be snugger, you can make it snugger, but that seems to fit pretty nicely. Okay. All right. So next we're going to extrude that. And so again, we need to extrude it, and we need to extrude it the thickness of the wheel. So if I use a CD, it's 0.05. If I use my wheel, it was a lot thicker. Okay, so but for a CD, it's 0.05. Okay, and that'll be just right for that. So we'll click done. Okay, and then again, we're gonna draw a new sketch. Okay, and this one can be random because it's not going through anything, but I just want to give some extra meat um, for the hub to attach to, because right now that's not very thick. And so we'll extrude, and we want to extrude that, and it can be any amount that you want because that does not really critical, I don't think. And then we'll hit done, and then again we're going to draw on this surface, and we're going to draw a circle. And this circle is important because it's got to be the thickness of my axle. Okay, so in this case, I'll have to dimension it. Okay, so that thing was supposed to be, double click on it, it's supposed to be, the axle was 0.116, but in this case I want it to be a little smaller and a little bigger. Wait, what is it? Let me double check. I can't even remember. I'm lost in my head here. So when making the hole for the axle, we want to add we want to add 0.01 so it's not too tight. So we add 0.01. So we'll click here and say plus 0.01. Okay. Oops, that wasn't it. So that should be a plus 0.01, and it's going to be 0.126. Okay, so I'm going to finish that, and then on this one I'm going to extrude it, but that's actually a hole. So I'm going to click on it, and instead of that, it's going to be a cut. And I want to make sure it cuts all the way through, and I hit finish, and then I have my hub with a hole, and then we can print that on the 3D printer. Okay, so just make sure to, before you save, make sure you save it in your folder with your name on it, and then you're also going to go to print, just set your mouse there, and then we're going to send to a 3D print service, and we want to save it as an STL, and then we can go from there. Okay? All right, good.